we're looking for when the swing highs and lows are expanding or contracting, right? So you see the dashed on my chart. You see the dashed magenta and the dashed blue, pretty similar to this screenshot here. So the dashed magenta and dashed blue lines, those are identifying the swing highs and the swing lows. Right? And if you look at the red arrows here, so the first set of red arrows is identifying when the swing high is expanding and the swing low is also expanding, right? So the swing low went lower, the swing high went higher, so the swings are expanding. And then the second set of arrows here and here, we can see the swings are contracting. So the swing high went lower and the swing lows went higher. So they're contracting inward. So if we look at the chart here, right, you see my white arrows. So you see how the swings are contracting here. And then somewhere along the road, I'd say that's contracting. And yeah, here's an example. So if you look at the white arrows here, we can see the swings are expanding. So that's the condition that we're looking for. All right, so that'll be our first question for the day. So, and then afterwards, I'll take your guys' questions in the chat window here. Okay, so first thing to do is get BloodHound open here. So you see the button at the top here that says empty template. So that is BloodHound, and as it says, it's empty right now. So first thing I want to do is put a file name. All right, I want to assign a file name to my BloodHound template. So I'm going to hit the change button here. I will just put in today's workshop date. Today's the 22nd. There we go. All right, hit the save. And there we go. So now I have a file name for today's BloodHound template. All right, so I'm going to start working on the logic board right away here. So if we hit the logic tab, you'll see the green workboard here. And the first thing I need to do is create a new logic template. All right, so we have a BloodHound template, which is the file name. And then inside this BloodHound template, we can have multiple logic templates, basically multiple systems or multiple strategies. So let's see, what are we doing today? We are basically identifying expansion, contraction of swing points. And so let's kind of analyze, what exactly is the indicator doing, in this situation, right? So this is identifying expansion, right? So the swing low went wider or went higher, and the swing high went wider or higher. The swing low went lower or wider for expansion. So what's happening here? The swing low moved higher. The swing high moved higher. The swing low moved lower here. So essentially, we're just looking for the swing high to step higher and the swing low to step lower. And the solver that would look for that would be the comparison solver. So what are we doing? We're comparing, I guess, actually, let's take a look at it this way. So this is how it's being analyzed. So we're comparing this bar, the swing high of this bar, to the swing high of one bar back, right? So we're comparing the current bar to the bar one bar back, right? So that's what we're doing. We're comparing that plot to itself, but on different bars. So that's what we're doing here. So, and that's what the comparison solver will do for us. So let's see here. So this solver is going to be looking for expansion of the swing points, right? So it's always a good idea to name your solvers so that you know what your solvers are doing, right? Because after a while, once you get a bunch of solvers on here, you know, it's very easy to forget, you know, what is each of these solvers, you know, doing in your system here. So always name your solvers. Next step, we're going to plug in the swings, highs, lows indicator. So let me actually kind of, so I already had this indicator already on my chart, so let me give you guys a look here. So we're using the SI swings, highs, lows, right? So this indicator is just identifying swing highs and swing lows. And the settings that Thomas was using are number of swings 2 and the swing sensitivity of 4. Right? And the two plots that we're using is we're using the widest bottoms and the widest tops plot. Right? So basically this is the highest high swing and this is the lowest low swing. So if you're not familiar with the this indicator, the swings, highs, lows indicator, you can find this indicator on our documentation, and there's a little video for it. All right, so that's a quick introduction to the indicator that we're using, and so let's continue on setting up this solver here. So let's finish setting up the indicators in our comparison solver here. So input A, we're going to input the swings, highs, lows indicator. So we're going to scroll down to the S's. There's the indicator that we're using on the chart. So let's add that down here. And excuse me. We need to change the parameters here. So that is 2. And swing sensitivity, we're using 4. All right, so we have the parameters set up in BloodHound to match what's on the chart. So that's always critical, right? So when you guys are, you know, putting something together on BloodHound, and you know what you're seeing from BloodHound doesn't quite seem to match your indicators on the chart, it's 99% of the time it's due to a parameter not being set, not matching what you're using on the chart. Right? So if things don't look like they're lining up between BloodHound and your indicators on the chart, always double check your indicator settings on the chart and make sure they're exactly the same in BloodHound. So, all right, next step is we need to figure out what plot are we looking at. So in this case, so let's take a step back here. So when we're looking for the swings, these swing points to be expanding or contracting, right? That is a non-directional condition, right? That doesn't tell you that the market's going higher. It doesn't tell you the market's going lower. It just tells you that the market is expanding or contracting. So that's non-directional. So, you know, how I choose to generate, you know, long signals or short signals doesn't really matter. And it'll become apparent why it doesn't matter here once we get a little further down the road here. But I'm going to just kind of go the traditional route, and I'm going to use the widest tops, which is the highest highs. So the widest tops is our blue, right? That's the blue plot right there, the blue hash on the chart. So that's the swing highs, all right? So I'm going to use the swing highs to generate a long signal. And then the widest bottoms plot, that's the magenta plot here, right? So that's the swing lows. So I'm going to use the swing lows to generate a short signal. So, and the reason why I did this is because it just falls in line with the default output settings of the solver. Right? It just kind of falls in line with just the default settings here. So, and again, this will become apparent here in just a moment once we finish setting the solver up. Okay, so we have input A set to our swings, highs, lows. Now input B, we're going to do the same thing. So let's take a look at the chart again. So if you guys see my arrow here, so the current bar, that's what input A is looking at, right? So input A here is looking at the current bar. Now input B is going to be looking at one bar back. So we're going to be looking at the swing high plot of one bar back, and we're going to be looking at the swing low plot of one bar back. All right, so input B, that's going to be one bar back. So, but first, let's go set up our indicator. So again, there's the swings, highs, lows indicator. Let's put that on our list, add that. Again, change our parameters to match what's on the chart. And again, I'm going to use the same plots again. So I'm going to use the widest tops, which is the swing highs to generate long signals. And I'm going to use the widest bottoms plot, which is the swing lows, to generate short signals there. Okay, right, so this indicator basically is set up exactly the same as we did for input A. So there we go, input B is done. Now we want it to be one bar back. So how do we do that? Well, that's what NinjaTrader's displacement function does for us. So we're going to put a 1 in there for one bar back. Okay, now if you'll notice, we start to see some results here. Let's kind of take a look here. So there we go. You'll notice here, right? So when the swing high moved higher, it was identified with a long signal, right? So if you notice, when all the swings highs move higher, it's identified with a long signal. And when the swing lows move lower, you see when all the swing lows move lower, it's identified with a short signal, right? So basically, we can see that we have the expansion. We have the expansion of the swing points identified with a long signal for the highs and a short signal for the swing lows. All right, so we have that expansion identified. So now we need to put these two signals together to identify, right, when expansion happens at the same time. Because you'll notice, right, the swing highs don't ever expand at the same time that swing lows are expanding, right? There's always a few bars of separation between swing highs and swing lows, right? It's technically impossible to make a swing high and a swing low on the same bar or right next to each other. Right? There's always a few bars of separation. So now we need to kind of connect these two conditions together to identify, once they happen. So like in this, so in this area right here, right, we have the swing high happens first, and then we have to wait for the swing low to expand. Right, so once this swing low expands, that's when we have the completed expansion, right? So we have to take this long signal and extend it forward in time until the swing low has time to make its expansion, right? So that's what we'll work on next. Well, actually, before we get there, let's finish setting up our solvers. So we have this expansion identified. So now let's identify contraction. And here we go. Let's switch over here. So here we have contraction to work with on our chart. So so let's build a solver that's going to identify contraction here. Now I'm going to show you guys a nice nifty shortcut here, right? So again, this contraction is almost the same thing as what we have set up here in this in this solver, right? So input A needs to be our swing high-low indicator. Input B, again, needs to be our swings highs-low indicator looking 1 bar back. The only difference between expansion and contraction is how we look at the output section here, right? So instead of looking at A being greater than B for long, we want to identify when input A is less than B. So this would be contraction. So we can take a nifty shortcut here. Let me show you how to do that. So we're going to go to our solver tab, right? And so we can see, so this solver tab has the list of all of the solvers that have been built in this BloodHound template. All the solvers are listed here. And what we can do is we can select this solver, and you'll see there's a copy button, so we can copy it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the name to contraction. So this solver will be identifying contraction. And as I mentioned, we just need to change the outputs here, like so. So you kind of see how I'm reversing the outputs, like that. All right. Okay, so now we have this solver built, so now we just need to go and test it. Make sure that that our idea was correct, right? So let's go back to the logic tab, back to our logic board. Under existing nodes, right? So there's the first one, the expanding swing points, and there's the new one that I just built, contracting swing points. So I click on that, and that puts it on the board. And now let's connect this up to the result node. And let's take a look here. So I'm going to take a look at the chart. And sure enough, there we go. We can see signals, right? So when the swing lows are moving higher, I'm getting a short output for the swing lows. And for the swing highs, when the swing highs are contracting or moving lower, I'm getting a long output, right? Again, so the swing lows are moving higher or contracting. We're getting a long output. So there we go. So we've got two solvers identifying the two different conditions, right? Now if I scroll back, so remember this here where we have expansion identified, right? So there's no signals on this expansion. Right, so each solver identifies one of those conditions, right? So we have one solver for contraction, we have another solver for expansion. All right, so at this point we are ready to connect. Basically, we're ready to connect these two. How do I say this? Connect the swing high expansion to the swing low expansion, right? So in other words, we need to take the expansion of the swing high, extend it forward until the swing low has time to expand. And there's a couple of ways we can do this. I could use the signal extender, or I can use the toggle node. And in this case, I'm going to use the toggle node. So the difference between the two is that the signal extender will only extend a signal for a certain length of bars. So it's limited. So the signal extender can only connect these two, can only connect the swing high to the swing low, can connect those two bars with a limited number of bars. Now, the toggle node will wait forever. So the toggle node, when the toggle node is basically toggled on, the toggle node stays on forever until you turn it off. So what that means is that the toggle node can wait a indefinite number of bars to connect, right, the swing high expansion to the swing low expansion, whereas the signal extender, it has a built-in limitation where only where the swing high condition can only be extended forward a limited number of bars. Right. So, and since I really don't know how many bars it's going to take to get, the swing high expansion to the swing low expansion, that's why I'm using the toggle node. So let's plug that in here, like so. And so now we need to go and kind of fiddle around with the settings here for the toggle node. Now let's kind of take a look at our chart here. So let me actually change this. All right. So my rectangle now is I've identified, or I've circled the bars where the swing highs and swing lows have expanded, and you'll notice that right here the swing high actually contracted, right? So the swing high went lower, so it went into a contraction. So essentially our expansion ends right here where the rectangle is, right? So if our swing high contracts, that's when we need to turn the toggle node off, right? We want to turn that toggle node off there. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the contraction solver to turn our toggle node off. We're going to connect that into the reset, and so we're going to use the reset options here to turn. Actually, before I get there, the opposite signal. Actually, I want to turn that. That needs to get turned off or set to no action. And instead, we're going to use the reset here to turn the toggle node off, like so. There. So let's take a moment to analyze what are we looking at here. So you see the long output here. So this long output from BloodHound. What is that identifying? Well, that is identifying the swing high expanding. Right? The swing high has expanded, and then when the swing high contracts, we can see the long output is turned off. So long output stops. Now let's look at the swing lows. So here we have the swing lows expanding. So it expands on this bar. And if we look at BloodHound, you can see the short output. All right, the short output there starts or turns on. And if we look at the swing lows, they're still expanding, right? So as long as the swing lows keep stepping down, the swing lows are expanding until we get here. And then we can see on BloodHound, the short output stops as soon as the swing low goes into contraction. So that's what we're seeing. That's what this toggle node is doing for us. And you'll notice, right, so where my triangle is, right, where I've identified where both the swing high and the swing low have expanded together, right? So yeah, remember that the swing high stopped expanding right there. So this is the area or the bars where we have both the swing high and the swing low expanding together. And if we look at BloodHound, what do we have here? We have long and short at the same time, right? So that's what we're looking for. So remember earlier at the beginning I said that expansion and contraction doesn't tell you what direction the market's moving. It's just telling you that the market is expanding or contracting. So when we have long and short at the same time, that means both the swing highs and the swing lows have expanded together. And so that's what we want to identify, are these bars where we have a long and a short output at the same time, where the swing highs have expanded at the same time the swing lows have expanded. So that's what we're looking for. So yeah, so this toggle node is basically, we can rename this toggle node to expansion, right? So that's what this toggle node is identifying for us, is expansion of the swings. Now, next step is let's isolate the bars that have a long and a short output at the same time, right? So in other words, we want to get rid of this short only. So we want to strip out the short only and also we want to strip out the long only and remove the short only, right? So we want to remove the long only, remove the short only, and keep the long and short together. And the way we can do that is with the long-short modifier. So this little function node has a lot of gizmos in it. It's got a lot of, it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife here. So the mode, it's got a lot of different functions here, a lot of different modes here. And the one that we're going to use is product, right? Product, which is the same as multiply, right? So product is just another, mathematical term for multiplication. So when we use that, if you look at the chart, all we're left with is the long output and the short output together. And so why is that? Well, let's take a look at the toggle node again. So what are long-short modifiers doing with product mode is it's taking the long output, which has a value of 1, and it's multiplying it by the short output, which has a value of 0. Right? Anything times 0 is always 0. So when we look at the result, right, so the long output here, when you take 1 times 0, you're left with 0. But here, with, where we had the long and short output together, right, that's basically 1 times 1, and we're left with 1. Right, and the short output is stripped away too, because that would be 0 for the long side, 1 for the short side, so 0 times 1 leaves you with 0 again. So that's how that works. So we can give this a name here. Let's see here. What should we call this? Call it something like both long and short. There we go. So that's what this function knows, that is identifying for us, both the long and short together. So here we go. So this is our area of expansion. And oh, look, we actually have an area over here, a couple of bars of expansion. And let's scroll back on the chart. Nope. And let's go back. Let's see if we can find some more. Ah, here we go. Yeah, here's some more. So we can see the market made a nice big move up. So that expansion area of price action was identified, right? As soon as that swing high was identified there. And there we go. So we had this move down, and as soon as the swing low is identified, then we had our expansion identified there. All right, so we have the expansion identified. Now let's work on let's work on the contraction area. Okay, so essentially for the contraction, we're going to kind of duplicate our toggle and long-short modifier work here. So let's grab another toggle node. So we're going to plug this contraction solver into the input there. So let's zoom in there. And actually let's connect this toggle node in to the result node so we can see what's going on the chart here, like so. And we're going to copy the settings here. So if we look at this toggle node up top, we're going to copy the settings here. So the input here, right, I have no action set for on opposite signals. So let's go this toggle node down here. So opposite signals, let's set that to no action. Let's take a look at the top node here. We have for the reset on signal, we have that turned on, or I'm sorry, force off. That's set to force off. So let's go to the toggle node down here. There we go. The reset on signal, let's set that to force off there. Okay, so both of these toggle nodes are set up the same. And one more thing to do, we need to take this upper solver and connect it into the reset down here. Yeah, so you see how things are kind of duplicated here. How the toggle nodes are kind of duplicated in their connections and in their settings. And let's name this toggle node. There we go. Do contraction. And let's take a look at the chart. And quite literally, that is our area where the swings have contracted. So we just need to finish this up and with with another function node there. So let's plug in another function node, connect that up, and let's change the mode to product, and let's also change the name here. There we go. All right, so we have matching names between the two solvers, and let's take a look at the chart. So there we go. There is our area of contraction and basically price action. So we had the swing highs contracting and the swing lows. Once the swing lows contracted, bingo. Yeah, perfect, classic. So once the swing highs contracted, the swing lows contracted, and there we go. There's our area of contraction until basically the swing highs made new highs. Yeah, probably what would... Yeah, so let me kind of expand upon this question here. So, I mean, I see something that's quite obvious that, if price breaks out of the swing high or breaks out of the swing low, then clearly that is, that would be the market, all right, that would be price action expanding at that point, right? So I'm going to kind of take the liberty here and turn off, right, basically turn off the expansion, contraction. Yeah, I'm going to turn off the contraction if price breaks out of one of the swing points there. Yeah, so let's identify that. So let's see here. Yeah, so let's identify this area here. And so what we'll do is when we identify price breaking out of the swing, breaking one of the swing points basically, right? So if price breaks the swing high or if it breaks the swing low, we want to turn those toggle nodes off, right, to turn off this identified condition here, this identified contraction. So what do we need? Let's see. Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna use another comparison solver. So I'm gonna compare price to the swing high and the swing low. Yep. So I'm gonna just connect this comparison solver to our result node so I can see what I'm building here. So let's see. Input A. That's going to be price, right? So we're looking at price, breaking above the swing high or price breaking below the swing low. So the first thing we're looking at is price. So let's set that to price. And let's see, what should we look at? I guess we could look at the closing price of the bar, but I'm going to be more liberal, and I'm going to take a look at the high of the bar and also take a look at the low of the bar. So basically, if one of the wicks breaks, if the high wick breaks above the swing high, that'll identify price basically, right, expanding. Or if the low wick breaks outside the swing low, then that'll also identify price expanding. And next, input B, well, that's going to be our swing indicator. So let's go and set up our swing indicator once again. All right, so there's our swing indicator. Add it down here. And again, let's change the parameter settings like so. And again, we're going to select the plots like we did previously, like so. And let's take a look here. All right, good. So we can see we're getting a long signal here. Yeah, we're getting a long signal when price is above the swing high. And yeah, over here, if price goes below the swing low, we're getting a short output. So we can use this long and short output to turn off our toggle nodes. So let's see here. Let's name this solver here, right? So what do we got here? So price is breaking out of the swing points. There we go. So somewhere back here, we need to get this solver connected into the toggle nodes, into the reset of the toggle nodes, right? So let's see, what do we have here? This was contraction. So let's connect, I'm going to connect our result node to the contraction logic here, right? So that's identifying contraction, so there we go. So what I'm looking for is this contraction to get turned off on this bar right here. Yeah, I want contraction to be turned off on this bar there. So let's see here. So let me disconnect this leader, and let's connect this into the reset quickly. Just and yeah, oh, look at that. I didn't even have to do anything. That just instantly worked. So there we go. So we have a couple of bars of contraction, and then as soon as price broke out of the swing high, our contraction ended. There. All right. So that worked. But I also do need to have this expansion solver connected in as well. So let's pull this back, and what I'll need is an OR node. So I need either the expansion condition or this price breakout condition to be connected to the reset here. So let's disconnect that, connect that in, and if we look at the chart, there we go. That looks correct. Okay, so we need to kind of clean this up. Let's clean this up a little bit here. So let's pull these apart a little bit so things look a little better. And let's see, we're going to need to do the same thing for the expansion. So let's see here. Let's move that down here. So let's grab another OR node. So I need to, let's see, connect this one into it, connect this lower one into it, and connect that into that. There we go. And yeah, there. Okay, that looks clean. So with that, let's take a look at the chart here. And we just want to make sure everything looks correct. And let's see, yes. Oh yeah. Let's take a look at this, right? So we had price, we had the swing high moving down, contracting, and then the swing low moved up or contracting. So we had 2 bars of contraction, but then we had 1 bar where price had managed to break above the swing high. So our expansion ended a little earlier. Instead of waiting for the swing high to expand, right, we were able to identify basically a new high being made as soon as possible here, right? So as soon as that bar broke the swing high, we were able to turn off the contraction here. So there we go. I had a couple of bars of contraction there. Let's see what else we have here. And yeah, here we go. So we have a couple of bars of contraction until, again, price breaks out of that contraction, like so. All right. So that seems to be working pretty good. Let's just take a look at one more here. All right, yep, same thing here. As soon as price broke out of that swing high, it was turned off. And let's see, it looks like, yeah, so far it's always price breaking out of the swing high. I want to find a spot where price breaks out of the swing low just to make sure that's working. But it looks like oil is in a pretty serious uptrend these last couple of days. So again, price breaking out of swing high. There we go. Okay, great. So here's our contraction. Price breaks out of the swing low and moves lower. All right. So I think that kind of does it for the contraction. So let's take a look at the expansion here. So I'm going to connect up and take a look at the expansion here. Now you kind of notice, right? You can only look at one at either the expansion or contraction one at a time, right? Because they look the same, right? You're getting a long and short output at the same time. They both look the same, right? So you can't really, I mean, you could look at both the expansion and contraction at the same time, but you wouldn't be able to really tell the difference because they're going to look the same on BloodHound's output there. So, but we can take care of that in just a moment. So we'll get there here, but let's finish analyzing our expansion. So let's see here. So yes, we had a few bars of expansion, but then the swing high moved lower. Yeah. All right, this one still looks perfectly the same. It's great. Yeah, actually, you know, yeah, when the swings are expanding, yeah, technically speaking, when price is breaking out of the swing low or the swing high, that is expansion. So so really, kind of got a little too ambitious here. So we really don't need this OR node at all. Oh, oops. All right, it's this one we don't need. I got a little hasty there. All right, so let's put this one back. That and that. There we go. Yeah. So when things are expanding, you know, so basically when things are expanding, we don't need the price breaking out of the swings, right? Price breaking out of the swings is expansion. So we don't want this to be, we don't want this expansion identification to be turning off expansion. So that's why I got rid of that OR node. It was basically just, yeah, unnecessary. All right, so let's continue. Let's take a look here. And yeah, we had expansion. Then our swing low contracted, and it turned it off. Yep. So we had a moment of expansion and then some consolidation. Yeah, let's take a look. Yeah, so the swing high moved lower or contracted, and that turned off the expansion. Yeah, so essentially I'm just making sure that the expansion is not turning off too early. And so the expansion, yeah, the lows expanded, the highs keep expanding, but once the lows have contracted, it turns off the expansion signal. Okay, I'm kind of satisfied there. All right, so kind of one last little tip here, a little trick, and this wasn't in Thomas's question, but this is just kind of like a little tip here. Let's see here. Let's move this a little closer. So, you know, is there a way that we can look at the expansion and contraction at the same time? And yes, there is. And this is, you know, kind of subjective as to how you like to do this. But if we connect both of these into an OR node, right? If we connect them both into an OR node, and let's take a look. So, right, so yeah, actually this is a perfect classic example here. So this is expansion. but this is identifying contraction. And if we look at BloodHound, how do you tell the difference, right? They both look exactly the same. So what we can do is with the OR node, all right, here's a perfect situation where we can actually use the sliders here. Let's see, it's here. So if you you see the names that we see down here, it says, they both say both long short, right? And that's the name of these function nodes. So let me zoom in here. Yeah, so if you look at the name of these function nodes, right, those names show up here. So I'm going to adjust these names a little bit here. So let's go into this solver and let's see here. So this one, yeah, so I'll just put an E in there for expansion. And this long short modifier down below, I'll put a C in there for contraction. So there you go. So now when I click on the OR node, if I look at these sliders, I know the upper one is expansion and I know the lower one is contraction. So let's reduce the output here for contraction. So the expansion will let the output equal 1, and for expansion, yeah, for contraction, we'll allow the output to be half, 0.5, 50%. So if we look at the chart now, yeah, if you look at BloodHound, now we can see, right, we don't get the racing stripes anymore, unfortunately. But at least we can see that, there, bingo, when there's an output there, a small output, right, we know that that is contraction. So that's, there you go. So that's kind of one way that we can look at both expansion and contraction at the same time. All right, I think that does it. I think that's kind of as far as I can go with this question here. All right, with that, everybody, have a good rest of your week. Have a good weekend. And hopefully I'll see you tomorrow in the BloodHound workshop. Sorry, today has been a tongue twister day for me. The Blackbird workshop is tomorrow. So even if you don't have Blackbird, you can still attend and kind of check it out, see what Blackbird's all about, you know, if you're curious. So, all right, guys, with that, have a good weekend. See you later. Bye-bye, guys.